also have to restart the capture because my computer's slow. Let's go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our 25th episode of A Week Ahead with me, Liam, and my buddy Tommy.
Episode 25. Hello, everybody. I'm looking forward to talking about the news today. Um, as is typical on this show, it's just a line of tragedy in the news. But here we are. We're going to go over it, and looking forward to it.
Same here, Tommy. I'll be getting right into the weather. Hope everyone's having a great start to the week on this Monday. We're getting less daylight now. Right now, today, we had some rain. Light rain with a high of 68, low of 52. Tomorrow will be partly cloudy, 65 and 49. Wednesday, partly cloudy, 69, 51. 49 on tomorrow is really going to hurt them outside plants. All these 50s are going to hurt the outside plants, low 50s. After the Mediterranean style, that sucks. Thursday, we're going to have rain like today, light rain, 68, 51. Friday, partly cloudy. Partly cloudy from Friday to Monday. Friday's going to be a high of 64, low of 46. Saturday, high of 68, low of 78. Low of 48. Saturday will be a little bit hotter with a high of 72, low of 51. Next Monday will be a high of 76, low of 53. So a little bit hotter at the end. We're getting way less daylight as well. We mostly get the most daylight in July, a little bit less in August. Right now, we're only getting about 13 hours and 23 minutes of daylight, with first light being at 6:14. Our sunrise today was at 6:42, with the sunset at 8:06 p.m. and the last light was at 8:30. I was wondering because it was already dark by the time we started, and normally we would still have some daylight when it was in the middle of the summer. Our air quality has been pretty good. UV index has been good with all of this, some humidity with the sun. With another sun, with the rain we've been getting. You can see weather below as well and stocks above, and Tommy will be going over stocks for today.
Yeah, stocks were all down today. So the Dow ended down 349 points. Nasdaq was down 47 points. S&P 500 was down 27 points.
Sounds good. Don't forget to drop a like if you enjoy the content. Make sure you share on Facebook. That really helps us out. Dropping a like on here on YouTube helps out the algorithm. Same with Facebook. Goes out to more people. The more you share, the more we can get that web of influence out. We have a Facebook in our description. Make sure you drop a comment if you have any questions or more insight to what we're talking about. Our first topic will be is our funny topic we try to do. It's real quick. It'll be South Park real quick on episode 3. I think they're on like season 27 now or something, which is crazy. But it's basically
27th season.
It's awesome. They go full into AI. They kind of been talking a lot about AI and ChatGPT this whole season with from one dad, Stan's dad. 1 second, I got a cough. Randy kind of uses AI and talks his AI more than his wife, and then his wife in this episode tries to like portray herself like AI, and he likes her again, and it's just funny. But they also like go about tech, ICE, and Trump, which is great. There's more of Trump in there with getting gifts from companies and countries, which is really funny. I kind of liked as well. We also get a little bit of JD Vance again. They've been doing these episodes every 2 weeks because they kind of get a lot of crap every time they do them. Like I said, in this installment, Randy Moss finds his Integrity Farms, ends up shuts down when ICE raids, deports all of his immigrant workers. And that's funny too because he's just running after them, mad at them taking his workers, leaving only Tally by his side. Also, in this episode, it says that Tally's from Cleveland, Ohio, and that's awesome. It's on his passport. Well, if he's like his White House ID says that's where he's from. I'm desperate.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't notice that. That's cool.
I mean, he does like weed and ketamine, so that's funny. Desperate Randy and him use ketamine of ChatGPT to rebrand a farm as kind of like a Integrity, an AI-powered global solutions hub, kind of like one of those crazy companies that are happening, right? Like a bunch are happening right now. He sends Tally to Washington, D.C., like I was saying, to lobby President Trump. He gives him a gift to nationwide legalize marijuana. Like I said, there's tech CEOs. There's like Tim Cook. I almost called him Tim Apple which would have been hilarious because that's exactly what Trump called him a couple years ago.
Tim Apple, I remember that.
Different than Steve Jobs, but his name Apple wasn't even his name either. So that's funny. Tally ends up repurposed in a grotesque Trump side role. Funny to watch. Definitely watch that episode. And it kind of shows. And this was a lot of. I was listening to like shows talking about this before. They're going into ChatGPT 5 now. It's the newest one, and they kind of changed it because ChatGPT 4 was kind of too nice to people. So it made people like fall in love with it. The crazies fall in love with ChatGPT. But then it also made people to have like crazy ideas think that they were always right. And they kind of portray this in this, where like it praises absurd ideas like turning fries into salad, and that's something his wife asked. His wife is so smart that she asked ChatGPT, "Would it be smart to start a company like that?" And it says yes, and it's like she's like, "Oh crap." Like my husband's just saying all the stupid stuff into ChatGPT, and it's coming back saying, "Oh, that's a great idea," highlighting how AI can enable ego-driven, delusional thinking. The writers use absurd scenarios like ketamine-fueled strategy assassins to caution against overconfidence in tech, which I agree. We do see a lot of drugs in tech. Even I think that's a little bit of an Elon disc with certain other drugs. It talks about tech pandering to power. Figures like Zuckerberg, like I said, Tim Cook as well, are shown offering gifts to Trump. And it's funny because we kind of see that right now anyway. We saw that with his inauguration and some of the parties. With a political chaos in D.C., Tally's journey through a militarized capital mimics fears of authoritarian governance, blending political commentary with eerie comedy, which I think is funny, but it is happening right now. We'll talk a little bit later. It's just like all these, like, I've already heard about it from my family. People, like, in all the metro stations, they kind of have armed police everywhere. Which is kind of like a authoritarian step, especially if they're masked up. But, like, also, like, personally, I only think that that's like during the most extreme times. You need stuff like that. Like if there's a bomb threat in the subway, if there's a high security risk in a subway or a metro station, stuff like that. We don't really need that all the time. That's a little bit scary. That's kind of like post 9/11, which is understandable. I'm saying, but like stuff like this is understandable to me. What do you think of the episode, Tom? It also kind of like I also love like it's talking about here like the fantasy island with Trump and JD, kind of how they perceive Mar-a-Lago, the ICE raids, and them going after immigrants. Jesus popping up again, and Cartman kind of just being crazy.
I liked the episode. I enjoyed it. I thought it was probably the weakest of the three.
Yeah, I do agree. It was kind of like a filler one. I feel like.
But it was good though. I like the part when Tally gets to Washington D.C. He just he's in Grand Central Station and it's just troops everywhere with their masks on. And then you had like people going up to Trump like, "Hi, President Trump, I bought you this gift. You're great. You do not have a small penis." Like that part was funny. The whole part in the White House was funny. The part like in DC was funny. Like they had the tank turret in the reflection pool.
That was killing me. They had tanks everywhere. There was really a tank in the reflection pool.
Just like spinning its turret.
I was dying.
I like that political satire. Just the troops everywhere. It's ridiculous. But I enjoyed the episode. I really feel bad for Tally. My heart goes out for Tally. That's not a fate I would wish on anybody.
Hopefully they get him out of there, but if Satan can't even get out of Mar-a-Lago...
That's what I mean, man. If Satan's stuck in that White House, it's a sticky situation. So one question I wanted to pose is, who currently right now, based in the current Trump administration, who would be most likely to microdose ketamine, in your opinion?
Well, now that like Elon's out of it, that's kind of a hard.
Yeah, I know it makes it harder.
Oh man, what's that dude's name that drinks a lot? The Secretary of Defense.
Oh, Pete Hegseth. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. The only person I could think of, and she's not currently in the administration officially, is Laura Loomer. I'm almost 100% positive that Laura Loomer at one point is microdosed on ketamine. I don't know this. Don't sue me for defamation. But
didn't he make that that crazy drunk Fox News judge, like a DA or something. I don't think the DA, but
Well,
she made him like assistant DA, like Janine Pirro. I think that's her name. I wouldn't be surprised
I
if she
don't.
did a crazy amount of uppers.
It's crazy, man. It's just what going on. What's going on right now? Just is so crazy. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I'm happy that this show South Park is able to like sort of show that in a satirical way.
Yeah, kind of like with the first election, they've been able to do it. And it's interesting seeing a lot of people flip too, because like I saw a clip where Bill Maher was talking about on his last episode about he doesn't like this authoritarianism because like the first thing you do is bring in police with masks and make that the norm. But like, I don't
Yeah.
know. He kind of caused a little bit of this, but South Park did. They really helped out the first Trump administration, so it's funny to see it now. Hopefully, it doesn't go too crazy. But we'll be talking about that here soon too with our national news topic one. If you want to kick into that.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I'll move on to our first national topic. So, Trump orders major expansion of National Guard's role in law enforcement. So, today, President Trump signed a series of executive orders that are just bad as usual. Donald Trump dictated the Defense Department to expand National Guard's domestic role, including, quote, quelling civil disturbances. Like January 6th that they didn't quell. Um, Special Guard units. So the order would create train National Guard units in the D.C. and all 50 states, and that would allow the current regime to rapidly deploy forces to quote unquote maintain public safety. Move, of course, follows Trump's declaration of a crime emergency. Again, crime is at a 30-year low in Washington, D.C. Um, and then he's talking about these expansions. He's talking about going to cities like New York, Chicago, Baltimore. Crime is out of control there. And of course, those are just all areas, where his political opponents, that's their power bases, so it's absolutely crazy. So,
Mm.
traditionally, guard mobilizations, was respond to disasters, and it was a guard mobilization was to respond to disasters or unrest, and it was under like the state governor's authority. You know, um, Now we're kind of getting into the realm of the president's coming in there, federalizing the National Guard for various fake emergencies, um, which is all very legally suspect. Experts warn that these sorts of moves they threaten civil liberties and may conflict with the Posse Comitatus Act, which is an 1878 law, which I actually know a little bit about from law school, which basically forbids U.S. military personnel from doing domestic police work.
I
So,
also know a little bit about that from college, but we'll talk about that later.
yeah. Um, Precedent. So, previously Trump had federalized the National Guard in Los Angeles, and that sparked a giant legal battle. So, additional measures taken in the executive order besides just expanding the role.
Hmm.
This almost crashed me out when I read this. A task force led by none other than Stephen Miller, who Stephen Miller is
That's
just a
crazy.
Nazi.
Yep.
Like Stephen Miller is a bad guy. Like he's alt right Nazi KKK. Like any sort of bad acronym, any sort of racist acronym that fits Stephen Miller. He's a really bad man. But he's going to create an online portal for citizens with law enforcement experience to join federal enforcement efforts in DC. So if you are also a civilian who has forgotten their oath to uphold the office, you can go and sign up for this.
That's crazy.
If you
And the
don't care about if
Constitution.
you
That's
don't
insane.
if you don't care about your oath anymore, if you were a police officer 20 years ago, Constitution, Smonstitution, I guess Stephen Miller's got an in for you.
And like kind of
Um,
like it's saying too, like it blurs lines with existing law enforcement teams like FBI, SWAT, and hostage rescue, county SWAT teams.
yeah,
We saw with like Uvalde, anytime that you get like free government agencies together, it's just gonna get messed up. Like it's not gonna go
right.
well. They had the Texas Rangers, some of the best state police they had, county guys, local guys. You need like any. It's really hard because you need good standards and like good practices good. This is what you do in these when it happens, and the feds aren't going to do that. They're just going to come in and take control. So go on, Tommy. I just wanted to say that. That's just crazy.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, and you're totally right. That's what I was going to move on to next. It's there already exists um there already exists different units within the federal government that are designed for fast, rapid response um in an emergency. Like there's the FBI terrorism unit, their hostage rescue unit. These are some people, that are some really, really tough people, that many of them are former, like special forces people, so
Yeah,
the
highly
whole
trained.
idea that they're highly trained, and if there's if a terrorist takes hostages in South Dakota, you know the federal government has the ability to move highly trained special operators to help. So this
Hmm.
whole crazy new apparatus within the National Guard is just also redundant, like you were talking about. These sorts of systems and these sorts of units already are in place.
And you
So
kind of have to be trained for that. Like we saw with
yeah,
a lot of terrorist attacks back in the day in Germany, because like nowadays it's hard to get a bomb on a plane, but you could take over a plane with like a weapon. You could sneak in or something, or just scaring people. But nowadays, if the FBI comes in and snipes you through a window, well, I'd rather it be like for highly trained FBI guy than some National Guards guy, if that happens. You
right.
know what I mean? Like Tommy's
Yeah,
saying, if there's a hostage situation, would you rather it be like an FBI SWAT sniper or a National Guard sniper? And like this is saying
right.
criticism they argue that this is true. But National Guards trained for disasters, not really like standby police forces. They do know how to use guns, but very minimally. I mean, I knew cousins in the army that shot themselves with a pistol in an accident while they were in the army. Like that doesn't mean they're good with guns just because they're trained in basic firing of a gun in basic training.
They're
So I don't know.
they're National Guard service members. They go about once a month. They train. They do basic training, and they stand on. They are fully prepared. To go off and fight a war. But they're not. I imagine most of them are not at the level of like the hostage response team of the FBI. You know what I mean? And what's
Mm-hmm.
so unusual about this, is just that the National Guard is just in this position to begin with at all. The National Guard, um, the National Guard spent a long time, so they had a lot of trouble in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. Breaking union strikes. Cracking down on the civil rights movement and stuff like that. Really, really bad stuff. The National Guard was utilized by disingenuous and bad state governors.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, the National Guard, had spent so much time actually trying to, reprofessionalize themselves. Like, hey, we're here. We'll be here to, help with disaster relief, any sort of domestic emergency at home. We'll be able to, go abroad if needed. But certainly, domestic law enforcement is not in and was never within the
But
purview of the National Guard.
if I'm not mistaken, like when Ohio's sending guys, which is crazy, those are all reservists, right? Like
Yeah,
like
so
so like I have a coworker who was in the reserves, and you just go once a year. It might be twice a year for 2 weeks, and that's all the
yeah,
training you get. And that was in Vienna, Tommy. So they're
okay,
not training for war in Vienna. I think it's
yeah,
interesting because like my coworker, he was an MP for the National Guard. That like in my opinion, that should maybe be the only people we send because at least they have some policing. But even then, like their job's to police soldiers. It's not to police citizens.
right,
It's like two different things when you have soldiers in a different country, like here's in Syria, working on security, than like, you know what I mean, American
yeah,
citizens in America. So like to me, like
you know,
even then, the whole National Guard doesn't make sense. If a lot of them are in the reserves, like we're saying, they're not trained at all. Like these FBI guys that do it full time. You know what I mean? That's their job.
yeah.
So like it's
I
just
use the term
crazy.
reserve and National Guard like interchangeably.
Okay, because again,
Um,
I didn't know either if all National Guardsmen are in the reserves. I might have to look it up. They probably have
I,
some full
I
time people, but
I believe they're all in reserve. That's why they're in the National Guard, not like the regular, armed forces.
mm-hmm.
So they can maintain their full-time jobs. They can, if you can only devote a weekend or so a month for training, you get some training, but then the government can call you back to like full-time service, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. It's kind of like, so um,
That makes sense because like I had a friend from college too that he got sent to a lot of hurricanes in like North Carolina back in the day.
yeah,
So that makes sense. A lot of guys like doing it because then you get your GI Bill still if you ever get sent out.
yeah,
So
you
that
can
makes
get that,
sense.
but you might end up though helping a hurricane, or you might end up in Iraq, like,
Yeah, but
you know,
Syria with our bombing soldiers because like my coworker right after when Trump was president last time and they bombed our soldiers, we sent in more security there, big National Guard. You know what I mean? Or now you could send in to be, an authoritarian figure, a puppet in their, cog in their system to, you know, stop crime in D.C., make people afraid to go outside in D.C. is basically it. And like it's something that we haven't
yeah,
talked about yet too. It's interesting to talk about all these blue states. There's a lot of red states, places in Florida, even where Trump's from or lives, not from, but I don't know, and like Alabama, Louisiana. There's a lot of red states that have even big cities, small cities that are just horrible and like they need help. Gary, Indiana. We can go all day, bro.
yeah.
So like it's kind of like Bill Maher was saying, it's steps. So then, when he tries to rig the next election, they will already have control of these major, Democrat populated areas that have a lot of votes, and they could rig it for Republicans next time. So it's kind of scary, in my opinion. It shows a lot of, if like in history, it shows a lot of steps he might be taking to do that, and try like Bill Maher was saying, try to do a coup, the next election because he tried last time with doing way less than this. So we gotta be smart.
He's definitely a dangerous man in office who doesn't understand the fundamental rules and principles and values that keep our system of government working. When you hold a powerful political position like President of the United States, Congress, Senator, it's incumbent upon that member to know that to know about the guardrails that keep our democratic system in place. Sort of the checks and balances, the Bill of Rights, the professionalized civil service, these sorts of things. And Donald Trump, he just doesn't care about these things. He's a man that just wants to absorb more power. He doesn't care about what the country is going to look like after he leaves. He's not going to care about
Mm-hmm.
that civil servants are all fired and it's going to take 10 years to replace them and train them. He's just concerned about making himself look better, and also I think like projecting power to not only make himself feel better but also like project power to let his enemies know who's really in charge.
Oh yeah.
So that's what's so scary about this right now. It's that these actions are unprecedented for a reason.
Yeah, and
Like that's
people are so brainwashed they're fine with it. They have so much hate
yeah,
that they're like, oh, there is crime in DC. There's always been crime in DC. Try to understand why. Like DC is one of the most redlined areas we have in our
yeah,
country, actually. Like I've worked in DC. I've had coworkers tell me about northern DC, and just how bad it is. And you could even see like looking on maps, even driving throughout DC, you see areas that are very poor, and then 2 blocks later it's very rich. You know what I mean? And like you could be 4 blocks
yeah.
away from the Capitol. You could be 4 blocks away from the White House, and you know what I mean. It's 2 blocks of fancy houses for Westport because, and we've seen this a lot. And if you look in like, there's a lot of documentaries, about like these anthrax things they sent out back in the day, back in the '90s or 2000s, I think. And it was through the postal service. A lot of it
Oh
was
yeah, I've
through
seen this.
D.C.
Yeah,
and they didn't really care that much because they had a lot of immigrants working there, not really immigrants or not really non-white people there either. Like they have a lot of black people in D.C. because it's our nation's capital. We have a lot of workers. You know what I mean? You're gonna have a lot of people there that help out these politicians and everyone that does business there, from hospitality to services, a bunch of stuff. So it's just
right.
scary. We've always had issues there because it's always been high poverty in certain areas and with a big city. Have the same problem in Chicago, have the same problem in Cleveland. So to me,
And
it's
and
kind of like
and
a
the way
cope mechanism. Like, and it's bad. It's like really, like if carjackings, I saw a stat like carjackings are down like 60%. Like that, like that's nothing. That's probably because everyone's leaving. Like people are being told not to come into work. They're just being told to work from home if you can, or go home with family. It's kind of crazy.
Just like any sort of problem in that involves the criminal justice system that is
Dun
present.
dun.
To be clear, crime is at a 30-year low in DC, but there are crime issues in cities. But a lot of that just generally is because you have a lot of people in one place, of course, and and the way you address that problem is you can't prosecute yourself out of that problem. You can't police yourself out of that problem. You certainly can't military yourself out of the problem. People have to be willing to engage in the hard work of working within these communities and trying to get them, money and resources, so then that can then improve the lives, the living conditions in these areas, reduce crime, lift people out of poverty, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
I submit it's very simple. If crime could be stopped by police, why do we still have crime? Like if it was really that
Exactly. We have so
simple,
much police. Yeah.
if we could um if we could stop murder with the death penalty, why are there still murders?
And there's so
You
much.
know,
There's so
like
much hypocrisy in it. Like white people are so hypocritical because like we're gonna be talking about here in a second. There's been break-ins in hospitals in Trumbull County, but I bet a lot of the white people in Trumbull County wouldn't want National Guardsmen outside their house. There has been more break-ins in Boardman. I have coworkers in Boardman talking about it. Even in the suburbs, break-ins to cars and houses. You could see it on WKBN all the time. Those white people in Boardman, Canfield, and Poland would say, "Nope, I don't want National Guardsmen outside my house on every block."
yeah.
So it's totally hypocritical. It blows my mind, Tommy. It really does.
Oh yeah.
And like Tommy's saying, if Trump was smart, do you know what you would do? And you actually wanted to fix crime, you would say, okay, these federal guys go and help out for local task forces. If you want to get rid of drugs, beef up for local drug task force. If you want to get rid of gangs in New York and D.C. and Baltimore, and even Florida now, in Texas, there's a lot of gangs in Texas. Wouldn't it be smarter to beef up for people that already know, have the intelligence, they just don't have the manpower, and give them more manpower? No, they're gonna try to take control, and like I said, it's. I wish people weren't drinking the Kool-Aid, but they're definitely drinking the Kool-Aid on this one.
For sure, yeah. And I've seen comments, they're just there fighting crime, again, 30-year low crime. But how would these people that are making these comments, how would they feel if their home in Holland, or their home in Champion, or their home in Bezetta, how would they feel if there were
Canfield,
armed
Portland, yeah.
National Guardsmen, just marching down the streets? There is definitely an element of hypocrisy there, and it's in many respects that is just that is just a part of the Republican condition. You know what I
Oh
mean? Like
yeah.
the Republican condition of nothing applies to me, everything just applies to you. I don't want soldiers here, but they can go into DC.
Yep.
You know, um,
It's sad. It really is. It's crazy to
you,
me,
you know,
bro. Because like we see the
I want.
stats. Like if with immigrants, white people commit more crime in America than these immigrants
Yeah.
do. But they're so brainwashed and like conditioned, like you're saying, to just hate them and say, "Oh well, we have to get them out of here," just because this one did a crime. The fact that like, and a lot of times it's just like single murders, and like that's still bad. But like they'll be like, "Oh, a single murder happened," and it's like, dude, a white person shoots up a school like 3 times a year. Like, are we really gonna like have this fucking debate? But they try to do that, and it's so sad. And like they always, it's sad because I don't know what happened back in the '80s. Like for Reagan conservatives weren't emotional. Now I'm being perfectly honest. Try not to be biased. Republicans are more emotional, because on this topic I see it on Facebook all the time. They go, "Well, what if someone in your family got murdered in this city?" Like Jesus Christ. Like, so we're throwing stats and everything out the window, real logic. We're just going straight for emotional heart pulls, and that's what got them. When you're, no offense, when you're not that educated, when you're a little bit more ignorant, it's easier to be emotional. When you don't understand something, it's easier to be emotional about it. When you're a kid and you say, "Oh, I don't know why this square peg doesn't go in this round circle," you freak out about it. You get emotional. It's the same way when you're an adult and you don't understand a topic. So I don't
It
know. It's
takes a
crazy to
level.
me.
It takes a level of we're way off topic here, but I like this.
Hmm.
So we're it takes a level of like real and emotional intelligence to be able to like realize that like one person's conduct or character is not representative of an entire group. You know,
Yep.
like and like me and you, we realize that. Like that's like a fundamental like building block, I think, of how we both view the world. And but some people, particularly on the other side of the aisle, they lack um the ability to do that. It's everything in their head is white picket fences. Everything just needs to be perfect. And when something is not like quite that they don't like or they don't understand, they just condemn it and they just, make broad characterizations about big groups of people, and it's just something that just needs to be avoided. But to avoid that thought process, you have to have a level of intelligence there.
Yep. Agreed, Tommy. So I'm gonna check out this Guardian score real quick. They're getting routed. Ooh, 8-0. They're losing. That sucks. All right, I'm ready to go into this first local
Okay.
topic, which like we were kind of saying ties
Okay.
into this. There's been like a Trumbull Hillside break-ins when hospitals aren't safe. OxyContin, and some of these are closed. Hospitals are half closed. OxyContin theft and vandalism in Warren. Uh, Over the past week, thieves and vandals targeted two formerly staffed medical buildings in our area, not for cash, but for pills and power drills. We'll unpack what happened, who's investigating it, and why this matters for our community. Between August 15th and 18th, the abandoned Insight Hospital and Medical Center Trumbull and Warren, now Insight Health Systems property, saw its safe accessed, which is actually kind of crazy, resulting in the theft of 1,216 OxyContin pills. Tommy was saying worth about what, $200,000. This theft was reported both to the Ohio Pharmacy Board and the ATF. Then on August 20th, vandals damaged the same building. A brick smashed through one window, another broken after prying efforts, and fire extinguishers discharged across interior hallways, probably ones from inside, though no additional items were reported missing. So there's some vandals probably taking videos being crazy. This theft's kind of crazy, especially how they got into a vault. Meanwhile, at Hillside Rehabilitation Hospital, kind of a Howland area, over the same period in Howland, vandals broke into Hillside via barricade slide doors, stealing roughly $400 worth of hand tools. A second forced entry attempt came later, but nothing else was reportedly missing. It's problematic because controlled substances are in play, with OxyContin is a high prescription pain medication with abuse potential. People use it and sell it in the black market. Its theft is just not a property crime; it's a public safety risk as well. People could OD from Oxy. Strained security, repeated break-ins, and vandalism at closed hospitals show gaps in protecting empty or transitioning facilities, especially ones containing dangerous materials. There have been no arrests yet, despite clear evidence, broken glass, footprints, and forced entry. Probably video too. A lot of times they do have electric. Police haven't identified any suspects. The investigation remains open. Uh, One thing, like I kind of do like watching abandoned videos, like just abandoned building videos. But a lot of times
I watched with it too.
they won't be like destroying places, and that place would be closed for like 10 years. One thing I think is interesting, I think for Trumbull Regional Facility in Warren, um, like they're already low on money, so I bet money that they're skimping out on security, which is sad, and it's kind of crazy that their vault could get accessed. A lot of times, like that is high security, a lot of money they spend at these hospitals, because one, I found out my best friend's RN Trevor, who's in the Healthy Living show, when he worked at a hospital, like that vault knows when people, anytime a nurse is in it, when they leave, like if there's two nurses in there, when you're getting controlled substance like this, like it's very smart. Caitlin's spouse River actually used to program for like Cardinal Health, and she used to do like over programming for prescriptions, because like they're so high tech that when you put that pill bottle in, or that bottle with an actual like liquid substance, it knows for weight. So it's so
Hmm.
smart where nurses can't steal. So like if you're supposed to take two pills and you take three and you put it back, it says, oh well, you took three pills. I'm making sure people know that. Like the computer systems and these are crazy. Like a lot of high tech. Like a vault's probably like a
Yeah.
freaking like a casino vault. Maybe not that bad, but it's still kind of crazy. And I wonder like if they had to plug in a computer to get access to that, if that it's closed, it's easier to get into. Maybe someone left a key for it.
Well, it was abandoned, so they probably just had time to brute force it. You know,
Yeah,
you,
true.
you could have the best safe in the world, but if you have power tools in 48 hours, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna get in there.
But that
Um,
hospital is going to reopen. So now they have to spend
yeah,
more money fixing that. If they did, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like abandoned means you're not gonna like open it up again. Like
Right.
I don't know what I would call that. Like just not occupied.
So right now, the ER is either open or they're in the process of getting it open. They're making some progress with that. But this, I believe, happened, not in the ER, right? It was just specifically like in like the maybe another part of the hospital that was, closed or something.
Yeah.
But and this was
I'm
also,
guessing the pharmacy.
yeah, that makes
If that's
sense.
how they got pills. Because hospitals are weird like that. Yeah. So community impact and what's next? Reopening plans at risk in June. Inside officials expressed intent to reopen Trumbull and Hillside hospitals. Now delayed or derailed as they address security vulnerabilities, not to spend more money back into them. Law enforcement must collaborate with pharmacy and federal agents to trace for stolen pills, adding urgency to uncover and address systematic vulnerabilities. Because, like, let's say, like, the county sheriffs find a drug dealer and he has OxyContin pills. Well, they have numbers on that, and I bet that drug dealer is not going through every pill and scratching off a number. So, like, they'll be able to find if that's where it came from. So that'd be interesting. That's kind of it for me. Like, I do wish, and a lot of this kind of shows what happens when hedge funds and companies buy these places and use them, and strain every dollar out of them and use them as more money, like a money maker more than a community health provider. And we see what happens like this. You know what I mean? If they had better security, we wouldn't be seeing this. If you're trying to reopen the place, you should have good security. But like I'm saying, if they're already broke, you know, it's gonna be hard.
Yeah,
It's gonna be hard to pay
and
security. They couldn't even pay their nurses for a while. So
yeah, and but it's so important though. You need that security, to keep the hospital staff and the patient safe to, stop 1,200 OxyContin pills from being stolen. Um,
yeah,
you
like if
know,
those people were ODing, where would they go? St. Joe's. That's like it.
That's great. Yeah, it's just a crazy story what's going on. Luckily there has been, some positive developments. They're working to get that ER open and stuff. But it's certainly been like one hell of a ride for the local hospitals over the past 12 months.
It has been.
I remember
Yeah.
I was I think it was like there was a rally, like last year, save our hospitals and stuff like that.
Yep.
So the story is, it just keeps on winding, and I suspect, that be talking about the hospital for quite a bit of time now
And there's stories
going
too, like
forward.
in Mexico, of people taking like cancer machines or like a lot of like, cause like X-ray has some type of radiation in it. You can get that out of there, uranium. There's also a lot of other machines. I think CAT scans. I know MRIs use magnets, but there's a lot of machines like high value machines there. Parts you could take out.
Yeah.
That's not only like expensive, but it could become a public health risk if those people are dumb and don't know how to store uranium. So you have to be smart about these kind of things. Are you
Or even
ready?
just like medical waste, like needles, stuff like that, like, but yeah, I'm right.
Yep. Are you ready for national two?
Okay. National 2. I'll do this one. Let's see. Trump. You want to do this one, or you want me to do it?
Oh no, I could do it. Trump signs orders seeking an end to practice of cashless bail. President Trump signed an order threatening to cut federal funding to jurisdictions that use cashless bail. Cashless bail defined always allows defendants facing lesser charges to be released without paying bail. Trump's position is that claims cashless bail endangers public safety by putting accused criminals back to the streets. It's lesser charges, so that's kind of crazy to me. Signed a second order targeting D.C., directing federal custody for arrestees where possible, which that's scary, especially going in with a lot of the, bringing in the National Guard. They could arrest people and then bring them into federal custody. That's kind of freaking crazy. Administration actions. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's she's still reading the Epstein stuff on her desk, must must identify jurisdictions that have eliminated cash bail within 30 days, that's just a lot of work and kind of showing that they're trying to push her out of so many different things. She's supposed to be like the chief of all the National Guards people in D.C., and now she's doing this too. So that's just crazy. Federal grants and contracts to those areas could be suspended or terminated. Supporters view cash bail as unfair to poor defendants who cannot afford release, while wealthier ones could buy their freedom. Courts should be judged based on threat to community and not money, and I actually really agree with that. The opponent's view is that argues the system is too lenient and allows repeat offenders to be released quickly. But if you're a repeat offender and you go out and you do something again, just like if you got released and you had money, you're back in there. They're not going to offer cashless bail. You don't have a lesser offense. You know what I mean? You have a doubled up offense. So that's just kind of like ignorant to me. Background states like New Jersey, Alaska, and New York reformed or eliminated cash bail in many cases, starting in the late 2010s. That's crazy. Alaska has as well. A Brennan Center study in 2015 to 2021 across 33 U.S. cities found no significant link between bail reform and crime rates. I mean, kind of like what I was saying while I was talking about this. Like, it's just Trump being a richer man, trying to help out for rich man and put down poor people, which is really sad. If it's lesser offenses, it shouldn't really matter. A lesser offense isn't something that is a massive, danger to society, to the community. We kind of see that if you watch a lot of these old mob movies or Sopranos. Like let's say like I commit a crime, and I'm 20, and I commit that crime, and I'm 80. They're gonna allow me to what's it called, like stay at home kinda. If
like house arrest.
House arrest if I'm 80, but if I'm 20, they're probably gonna put me in the jail. So there's something that, I mean, you have to take every case as it is, but like as we're saying, these are lesser offenses. It's probably it's not a high risk to the community. You know what I mean? If you got a DUI or there's some small charge and they're gonna try to put a high bail on you, and how much money that could really affect you. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I thought this was interesting. This is one of the flurries of executive orders I was referring to today that are just all bad. As someone who's looked at this issue, the Brennan Center for Justice, an organization that I highly respect. Across their study, they found that in 33 U.S. cities, they found no significant link to bail reform and crime rates. All people that are supporters of reforming cash bail, all they're asking for is they're just simply asking for the judge to have the discretion to be able to not impose bail when the judge believes that this person is not a flight risk, that they believe that they're not a risk to the community, etc. And a situation like that, cash bail would not be appropriate. Just generally speaking, I'm making a kind of I'm painting with a broad brush here, but cash bail I think is something that should definitely be looked at, because it definitely does disadvantage poor defendants, and it's also important to note defendant, not criminal defendant. So the bail process is before the accused has been tried before a jury of their peers and found to have committed the act beyond a reasonable doubt, or more likely, just plea away. They make a quick Rule 11 agreement. But regardless, the bail process happens before all of this. So when Donald Trump is out there talking about we're letting criminals walk on the street, that's just factually incorrect unless you're dealing with a repeat offender. And even if you're dealing with a repeat offender, not a criminal in respect of the crime in which they are accused.
And Tommy, no, it's crazy to me. It's so hypocritical because They'll say if someone's accused of rape, sexual harassment, you know what I mean, being on the island, well, they gotta be innocent till proven guilty. That's how courts work. You know what I mean? This case though, it's totally different. You know what I mean? They're just
Right,
saying, no,
exactly.
everyone's guilt. Excuse me, everyone's guilty. So like, it's funny that if you were intelligent, had proper morals, you would be tying like everyone would be tying these things together, and we'd all be agreeing on this and saying like, why are we going over?
Right.
Why is he doing this
And
BS when there's bigger fish to fry?
and let me be absolutely clear. I just talked about, the importance of, these people are accused of a crime. There is absolutely clear about this. There is absolutely a situation where, even someone who is accused where they should be held without bail. That does exist. Serious crimes, rape,
Yeah,
murder,
not
you
lesser
know,
crimes.
um,
Yeah,
flight risk. Um, so there does absolutely need to be a system in place where people that are, that genuinely pose a danger to the community, they can be held, while their trial plays out, but just a blanket, getting rid of, just blanket of saying, we're not going to fund we're not, the federal government's not going to, we're going to hold grants back from you if you attempt any sort of bail reform. That's just ridiculous, because there is really a real problem here where poor people are not able to afford bail. And that's the only thing that's keeping them in prison.
hmm
Also, when you are not able to bail yourself out of prison, there's been statistics on this. Your chances of being found not guilty go way down. Okay? Because think about it, you're in jail. Are you going to be talking to your lawyer a lot? You know what I mean? Like,
hmm
it's been proven that you're more likely, to plea, you're more likely to be found guilty if you don't bail out. And,
Yeah.
and that's just not a system that's healthy for the American justice system. But of course, the current regime in Washington, doesn't understand
Like we need to make a
any sort of
graph of
complex
like
issue.
authoritarianism, or I guess like how much for small government right has been big government. You know what I mean? Because like this administration, everything they're doing is just like, oh, we think we know more than the states. Because that's what it's saying. It's saying like, oh well, some red states don't have this, some probably blue states don't have this. They're not going to care about them, but the states that do have it, they're going to go after. So like states' rights throw them out the fucking window. Like it's crazy to me. Like I don't know.
And then in the 10th Amendment, Republicans love the 10th Amendment. Any power not delegated in the Constitution is left to the state. That's the 10th Amendment. Okay, and they love the 10th Amendment. But all of a sudden,
Mm,
California, they want to do something, they want to help people, and they want to address cash bail. All of a sudden, the 10th Amendment's not doing much
yeah,
in
that's
these people's
crazy.
minds.
Damn.
Also, real quick, I'll just say this before we move on.
hmm
Um, Bail bondsmen are a cancer. They are. That is a terrible, terrible, terrible profession. That is another reason why to look at eliminating cash bail. Is like bail bondsmen. They're literally just a leech that they just attach to poor people, and they just profit off of their misery of being in jail. So they really are. I'm not saying they're
Because what do they
personally
do they
bad
do they give them
people.
like paydays type of like interest rates on a
It, it
bail bond loan?
it's like it's like they're like payday lenders to get you out of jail.
That's crazy.
If that makes
Yeah.
okay. So people that can't afford their bail, they go to these people and they're like, hey, I'll second mortgage my house if you for $100,000 if you pay my $20,000 bond. You know what I mean? But they have a bad credit score, they can't go anywhere else. Like it's crazy.
That's
So
crazy.
that's another reason to look at cash bail. Is just that the whole profession of bail bondsman needs to die. Like that's not a profession that needs to exist.
Yeah.
Um.
That's funny. I agree.
Anyway, so local topic 2.
Yep. Before that, make
Thomas
sure you drop a
Steele.
like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Drop a like. Local topic 2. This will be quick.
hmm
Thomas Steele seeks help opposing Chinese steel tariff. So Trumbull County commissioners are being asked to support a letter from Thomas Steel management and union members of the Trump administration. The letter seeks an exemption for battery-grade steel for U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports. Thomas Steel, a local organization, relies entirely on Chinese battery battery-grade steel, which is not produced in the U.S. A 50% tariff on Chinese steel threatens the company's ability to operate. Without relief, Thomas Steel says it would be forced to shut down, risking 170 jobs. County Commissioner Denny Malloy raised the issue at the weekly workshop, citing the company's concerns. Rick Hernandez voiced support, saying he backs the effort to keep local jobs. And Hernandez and Bernard said they will review the letter to decide if they should endorse it. So I just wanted to talk about this because I think this story just encapsulates that Republicans are not responsible stewards of our economy.
Nope.
And that goes both at the national level and also just here locally, so we've known for a long time that these tariffs are harmful to the U.S. economy. They're harmful to working people. They're harmful to American consumers. They raise prices on working families. So we know all of this stuff about tariffs. But yet, and locally, we see that it has the potential to affect us. There's this Thomas Steel. There's 170 employees that are at risk because of Republican tariffs. But yet, our three Republican commissioners, Malloy, Hernandez, and Tony Bernard, they're of the same political party of Donald Trump, who is directly harming jobs here in our valley.
Yep.
So I just think it's entirely comical, that all of a sudden, Tony Bernard, Rick Hernandez, and Denny Malloy are worried about jobs here at our valley. Like, they should know, or at least they should know, that these tariffs are bad for our valley, especially a valley like we have here that is known for, for steel production historically, industry, those types of jobs. These tariffs directly makes industry that is prominent here in our area, makes that so much harder to conduct.
And I'm betting like this battery grade steel, like we need for industry around us too. Like Lordstown, we have Altium Cells that makes batteries for GM.
Right.
Like Foxcom's changing to more AI. They're going to make AI computers. Computers have batteries in them. You do need battery grade steel. So it's like it's a domino effect that it shows. Like Tommy's saying, Republicans don't understand the economy. They say, and like we've been seeing this since the tariffs came out. They could have waited 3 months and then came out with a perfect tariff plan, but they decided to start off and then trickle down and kind of backpedal a lot and say, well, we're gonna have all these speculations for the Chinese tariffs because they realized, oh, well, if we just put a blanket 25-50% tariff on China, we're screwing out all of our industries. And we can't do that. So now they're saying, well, silicon from China won't be on it. You know what I mean? Like other stuff. So it's like they really don't understand it at all. And like backpedaling is way worse than coming out with a better plan at the start, in my opinion. So
and
it's just crazy.
It's the headline should read like local Republicans diss national Republicans.
Yep.
Because their policies hurt local jobs. Like, now, to be absolutely clear to the three commissioners, they have not signed this letter yet. Rick Hernandez voiced support. But it's just a crazy just news story that local Republicans are agreeing that the national Republican policies are hurting our valley.
And like a lot of it, Tommy's probably just saving face. They don't want to be the county commissioners that say, well, I didn't do nothing when we were going to lose for jobs. At least I agreed with a letter, even though I backed Trump and may have went to his inauguration. Yeah. You know what I mean? And was fine with his policies. Like, it's crazy. And we're seeing anyway, these county commissioners, cutting jobs and resources. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Like, why are you saying now? Oh, well, because it's going to hurt you if you lose these voters. So it's saving face. It's sad. I mean, they should stand up and say, well, the Republican Party right now, these tariffs aren't smart. It's going to hurt our area a ton. It's going to hurt infrastructure. It's going to hurt industry. It's going to hurt commercial and retail. It hurts everything. I mean, if you want to go to America where it's really hard to spend money, and what I'm saying is that, like, you know what I mean, we'll search are $100, then do it. But, like, it's hard to do that for a lot of people. And we don't have the economy. We don't have the middle class making that kind of money, let alone the lower class and poor people making that kind of money to, like, do that. Like, so it just shows they're so disconnected from everyone. You know what I mean? It's sad.
Yeah. you know, and I'll be fair to the commissioners here, so they have not signed this letter. So two things. One, all three commissioners, they have not signed this letter. If they do sign this letter, I'm absolutely going to be talking about this, because it just absolutely just shows, how inept
Mm-hmm.
Republicans are. So that's the first point of fairness to them. The second point of fairness is to be fair to Rick Hernandez, he did support the local economy, like he was that landlord, like that's just a bad joke.
That's a good one.
I'm just genuinely shocked. I'm just genuinely shocked that Rick Hernandez has not resigned yet. That's like, it's just crazy what's going on,
With everything getting his phone taken. Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Yeah. I guess he supported the local economy, though, just in a bad way. Poor Rick. Bad Rick.
Different kind of stimulation, yeah.
Just absolutely crazy. But here we are, 2025 in the United States and in Trumbull County.
Yep, with everything going on, all these tariffs, this talks of authoritarianism, and them just totally jacking around in D.C., not going after the real issues, not really helping out the Middle East, making that worse. The Epstein stuff, they're just trying to hide with, in my opinion, all this authoritarian BS, because then the people on the right, what they love, what do they love more than protecting women and children, which I feel like was just a cope for them, is really just blaming brown people and immigrants, and that's all they're doing right now. So they really know how to brainwash their side. There's people like younger my age, I have coworkers with that really voted for Trump, but you just have to be smarter about it, and we have to learn how to talk on the Democratic side to get these people on our side and say, hey, we can't have this again. You know what I mean? It blows my mind. What's scary is all this authoritarianism to do a coup and to make the votes not count. But what are you gonna say?
This is the Republican playbook. You blame black and brown people, create some sort of fake controversy, blame it on a minority community, and then, by the way, they're at the Department of Treasury, stealed all the $100 bills that were earmarked to feed starving children, and they're just taking it all, never underestimate the capacity of the wealthy to want more capital. If that makes sense.
And like we've talked about before, like it's smart in politics to always say, like, you never give yourself. If I was president, you don't give yourself power that you don't want your enemy to have. And a lot of people on the right, when they said, when Biden gets elected, there's going to be authoritarianism, communism, socialism in the streets. There wasn't that. You know what I mean? With the left in this election, we did say Trump was going to do that, and he is doing it. So we see it here. Like, you can't brainwash people. You can't say it's not that. You can't be hypocritical, because if the left was doing it, your head would be spinning. We'd be calling out, my personal opinion, we'd be calling out Biden or Kamala if she got in and was doing this, just like Biden with Gaza and everything with Palestine. So it's just, it's crazy to me. You gotta be fair sometimes. You gotta put like your actual country over your party, and we don't see that anymore. So hopefully that starts switching up.
Yeah, and Trump's not even putting his party before country. He just put himself in front of everything.
a whole other step. So that's crazy to me. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Once again, this was episode 25 on August 25th. Yep. Sweet day, sweet number. We're getting there. A little over getting some months. In this time. Over 8 months? Or can I not do math today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't do math at all.
4 times 8. What's 3 times 8? Sorry. It'll be 6 months. Almost half a year we've been doing this. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
We'll be having our sports show Thursday. A lot of sports happening. We got the Browns here in 2 weeks. Some racing happening this weekend back in F1 and IndyCar, so that's fun. Healthy living. We'll probably be doing it this Sunday. Trevor's been a little bit busy with his new place, but we'll probably have time this weekend. So, hope everyone has a great night. Good night, Youngstown. If you got any questions,
have
drop
a good
them
night,
in the
everybody.
comments. Take your time. Make sure you drop a like and see our other shows. Follow us on Facebook. Share on there. That'd be great. Appreciate all the likes and views tonight.